Okay, let's talk about paying yourself first with in relation to or combined with the cash flow quadrant. I want to explain to you exactly really what's happening when you pay yourself first. All right, guys. So if you remember, one of the primary things that you need to do if you're going to be successful in building generational wealth is this concept of paying yourself first. The idea behind that is that when you get a check, let's say, whatever, $3,000 every 2 weeks, that instead of taking that $3,000 and then going in and then paying, all of your bills or whatever, and then whatever's left over, you kind of say, okay, well, I can use the rest of this for a little bit of savings, or I can use the rest of this to, go on partying, go out to eat, or I can use some of this to actually, go invest and put money away for my future, fund a 401k or an IRA or something like that. The idea of paying yourself first is that you get that full $3,000. And once you get the $3,000, you immediately take out 10%, 20%, depending on how much you need to hit your F.I.R.E number. And then whatever's left over is the amount of money that you actually use to go pay your bills. Real quick, if you remember the cash flow quadrant, there's kind of those four baselines, right? So you can be an employee, you can be self-employed, you can be a business owner, and you can be an investor. And again, this is basically Robert Kiyosaki's teaching. If you haven't read the book, please, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, go do it. The idea here is that if you're an employee, you are basically exchanging your time for money, right? So you're working and, you put in 40 hours a week and you get a certain kind of money. If you're self-employed, you are really actually doing the exact same thing, but maybe you're more free to do it, or maybe you make a little bit more. Think of a plumber that goes on their own, starts their own business. Now, instead of being an employee, they can make the full amount of whatever's billed to that particular client. And of course, for most people, if you're self-employed and you do a really good job at it, you can create a whole entire business where you start to hire other employees and do all that kind of stuff. And so you can move up to the business quadrant. All of these, it doesn't really matter. This one, and this one, for the most part, you are always exchanging your time for money. Even as a business owner, even if you have employees and you hire a full staff, in most cases, you still kind of get your toes still in it at some point in time if you want to be a successful business. So the idea, as we talked about, is to do whatever you can to get into this quadrant, which is the investor quadrant. And the investor quadrant is when your money makes money. So think if I have $1,000, I put into an IRA. The IRA gets a 10% return every year, so I'm making $100 off my $1,000 every year. That money, I didn't have to do anything with it. Like, it's in the stock market. My money is actually making money. That's where you want to be, because I can go sit on a beach, I can go travel the world, I can do whatever I want to when my money's making money. The idea of paying yourself first is to, when you are an employee, when you're up in this quadrant, or up in this quadrant, or up in this quadrant, when you get your check of, $3,000, you immediately are putting your money as into the investor, here, into the investor, here, into the investor. One of the things that will get you, or the only thing that's going to get you to financial freedom, your ability to do whatever you want, whenever you want, for as long as you want, is to have enough money either coming in from assets or save that you can draw on so you don't never have to work again. If you work and you get a check here, and you don't pay yourself first, you've not put anything into the investor quadrant. Now, again, you might be thinking, well, I'll get my check, I'll spend my bills, I got to pay my bills, it is what it is, I don't want to get evicted or whatever it is, and whatever's left over, I'll go save. You just can't think about that way, because we know from the data, remember we talked about the state of America and we went through all the stats, that people just simply aren't, not only are they not investing for their future, they're not even saving. Because it's a lot harder to actually pay all your stuff and then kind of what's left over versus doing the alternative, which is paying yourself first. So simple concept, but I wanted to tie it into, give you a little bit of visual of how what we were actually doing is, as an employee, even at the age of 16, when you can actually start to save for a potential investment into, like I say, a traditional IRA or into a property when you turn 18, you want to be taking a serious amount of money, 10, 20%, again, depending on your FIRE number, and putting it into that investor quadrant as quickly as you possibly can. And of course, when you have enough money in your investment, like you have enough money put into your investment quadrant or into stocks or into real estate, whatever, where that money makes enough money for you, and that money over here can pay for all of your goods, that's when you reach financial freedom. You'll never make it if you're not paying yourself first, or at least feeding that investment quadrant every single week, bi-weekly, monthly, consistently.